before this morning's coffee, looking on Twitter, and I'm seeing that the rumor was that the Blue Jays playoff roster was going to be out, and Bo Bichette was not on the roster. Neither was Max Scherzer or Chris Bassett, and that early rumor, proved to be true. So, in my opinion, that is a big edge for the Yankees. Obviously, Bichette's 300 batting average right in the middle of that lineup is out. He's been dealing with an injury. Goes all the way back to Yankee Stadium when he slid into home plate, if you remember, and he banged his knee on Austin Wells's um, uh, shin guards. So since then, he hasn't been the same. And lo and behold, he's off the roster. So the other one that jumps out at me is Chris Bassett. I think that's an enormous plus for the Yankees because of the fact of his pitch mix, his pitch arsenal. What he does is he mixes five different pitches, and one of them he has slow curveballs. He has these slow sweepers, changeups. And in my opinion, that's something that the Yankees have struggled with in the postseason. So I'm glad that he's off the roster. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have the starting lineups for both teams. And we'll start with the Toronto Blue Jays. We have Springer, Lucas. We have Vlad batting third. We have Barger batting cleanup. Alejandro Kirk, catcher behind the plate. Varsho, Santander. And then we have Jimenez at shortstop. As I just mentioned, Bo Bichette out with an injury. So that's big. Circle that. You get a little bit of a better defensive game with Jimenez at shortstop, but obviously on a whole, it's a real plus that for the Yankees that Bichette is out of that lineup off the roster. Clement batting ninth and playing second base. Gosman on the mound, and I saw him at Yankee Stadium. Toronto came in September. It was a very, very memorable game, and he shut down the Yankees offense that night. And what it is, we all know that he basically is a two-pitch pitcher. He's basically fastball and splitter. His fastball is 94 miles an hour, and his splitter, it's kind of used as a changeup, to be honest with you, but his splitter is at like 85 miles an hour. So what do you really have? 9 miles an hour velocity separation between the two. You hear me talking about that so much. And, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say this is a series where we should see the Yankee bats, the thumpers in this lineup. We should see damage being done in this series. And they better do it in this series because it gets harder as you go along. Whether it's Scooble in the next round, et cetera. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but you know what I'm talking about. And in this round, the Yankees have a big edge. Starting pitching, bullpen, in my opinion, and they better take advantage of it. They should take advantage of it. They have an edge in pitching too. So let's talk about that for a second. But we'll give you the Yankees lineup. Grisham in center field, Judge in right field, Bellinger in left field, Rice at first base, Stanton the DH, Chisholm at second, McMahon at third, Volpe at shortstop, Wells behind the plate, and Luis Gil is the starting pitcher. This is his first postseason start. He missed the first round. Wasn't on the roster in the first round, being a 3-game series against the Red Sox. So with that in mind, Luis Gil takes the ball. And again, Luis Gil, let me just talk about it from a pitching perspective, as I like to do. He also has a limited pitch mix arsenal, if you will. Okay? So I talked about Guzman, and Gosman has a fastball splitter, and he also has a third pitch, and that's a slider. I'm going to want to see the Yankees make him throw that third pitch. I want to make him work. They should not be at a loss with that pitch arsenal, we know he's an excellent pitcher. But for what the reasons why I'm saying we should see the Yankee lineup, which is proficient and prolific. They led the major leagues in home runs. This is a series where they can flex a little bit, if you ask me. Now, with Heel, it's very, very interesting. With Luis Heel, he's a fastball, changeup, two-pitch pitcher. But last year, before he got hurt and before he went down to Tommy John surgery, he went more fastball slider than fastball changeup. So what I'm going to be looking for here, ladies and gentlemen, because he didn't have the greatest of regular seasons. He came back from Tommy John. It's understandable. But what we're going to be looking for, to keep it simple, to keep it short, when you go into the game, you're going to be saying, oh, yeah, I remember Mike saying this, etc. What we're going to be looking for is, let's say he throws 100 pitches. I'm just saying it for round numbers so that we could take percentages. If he throws 100 pitches, what I'm going to be looking for is 50 fastballs, 30 changeups, and 20 sliders. Not the other way around. I'm not looking for fastball, slider. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm saying it in advance. If it's fastball, slider, if that's all we're seeing, he's going to get hit. We're not looking for that. We're looking for it to be fastball, changeup, slider. So that's just a little key to the game as far as I see it. So from a hitting perspective, with the Yankee lineup going against Gausman, they're going to be looking for fastball and that splitter. Let's take a look at what the Yankees did against Gausman in the regular season. Let's just take a look at let's take a look at what the Yankees' numbers were against Gausman during the regular season. We understand it's a small sample size, but you know what? They play him a number of times, so it's not that small. Grisham was 6 for 15. Judge, 17 for 48 with 3 doubles and 6 home runs. Bellinger was 2 for 25. Rice, 0 for 7. Again, small sample size. He's playing first base. Stanton, 10 for 30. Jazz was 0 for 13. McMahon, 5 for 16. Not bad. Volpe, 3 for 24. Wells, 4 for 17. So what stands out to me? Well, you know what? Judge does. And, Stanton hit 300. And, McMahon had pretty good numbers against him. So the thing is that we're going to be looking to get the pitch count up, and we're going to be looking to get into their bullpen. We're going to be looking for advantages wherever. The Toronto Blue Jay closer is Jeff Hoffman, not Trevor Hoffman, if you get my point. Okay, so that's advantage us. So we're going to be looking to get into the bullpen, and I think one of the biggest challenges versus the Toronto Blue Jays is going to be the fact that Toronto has the highest batting average of any team in the major leagues this year. Out of 30 teams in a regular season, they had the highest batting average. Let me go over to it and give you an exact number. Toronto Blue Jays led the majors with a 265 batting average. The Phillies were next, then the Brewers, then the Red Sox, the A's, the Dodgers, San Diego Padres, Diamondbacks, etc. The Yankees were 10th. But now here's something very interesting also. The Toronto Blue Jays had the lowest strikeout percentage rate of any team in baseball. So what am I trying to say? Toronto puts the ball in play. Toronto puts the bat on the ball. They don't strike out. Now, let's get back to the point of Bo Bichette. He's out of the lineup. He's hits for higher average than anybody on Toronto. So that's advantage Yankee. We just took them down a peg, if you will, in terms of batting average because we took their highest batting average player out of the equation. So that's good. But they still have plenty of guys in the lineup that put the bat on the ball and don't strike out. Vlad is always a threat. We know that. He's got great numbers against the Yankees in general. But Here's a point that I'd like to make that I didn't hear from anybody else. We're basically a half hour away from start time, and I'm recording this. And I listened all morning. I listened to WFAN, ESPN. Was listening to John Boy in the car. And basically, no one had this little nugget that I'm going to throw out there. This game is being played on turf. There's not that many stadiums nowadays that even have a turf field. And I actually looked it up before. Let me see if I could scroll over to it. There's 25 stadiums that are natural grass. The only ones that have turf: Chase Field, Arizona Diamondbacks; Globe Life Field, which is the Texas Rangers. That's a brand new stadium. The Marlins. Tropicana Field, which they didn't even play on this year, and lo and behold, the Rogers Center. Why am I throwing this out there? Because of the fact I have 3 players in mind that a little bit concerned about with that hard turf. Okay, one of them is Bellinger. Okay, now Bellinger hurt the heel of his foot in the last game, the closeout game against the Red Sox, when he scored the first run of the game in Game 3. It was Rosario that hit a single to left field, and Bellinger beat the throw home. In rounding third, he bruised his heel, and he was limping pretty significantly the rest of the game. So what I'm trying to say is, even on regular grass, it's hard with a bruised heel. But picture a hard turf. That makes it even harder. So he's one that I'm circling and keeping my fingers crossed that he could make all the plays out in the outfield, because it's a faster game. The carpet makes it a faster game. It takes weird bounces, etc. So hopefully that heel holds up Game 1 and Game 2 in Toronto. Another one that I'm going to talk about, I didn't hear this anywhere else, was that Grisham, our center fielder, he hurt himself and he pulled a hammy back earlier in June or July. I looked that one up also. I might even have it in some of my notes on my phone here. As I'm scrolling, I'm taking a look. But it was either June or July where they were playing at the Rogers Stadium, and he pulls a hammy. He got his cleats or his spikes stuck, probably cleats stuck in the AstroTurf, and he pulled a hamstring muscle, and he limped around, after that, and for a significant amount of the season. And as a matter of fact, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not even sure if he's 100% beyond that hammy as we speak. So that's another one that I have concerns. And McMahon, I just have concerns because of that flip that he did head over heels into the dugout. He seems that he's no worse for wear, but that was absolutely amazing. So hopefully he's okay and intact. But the point that I want to throw out there, Toronto puts the bat on the ball. They don't strike out. There's going to be a lot of plays. Jazz has to play up to the top of his game. Volpe also. Volpe, to his credit, we saw him play very well defensively in the Red Sox wild card series. Played terrific. That's got to continue. So Game 1, we're laying it out. I will say this: Toronto must win this game. They're not facing Fried. They're not facing Rodon. They're not facing Schlittler. So in my opinion, they're home. They're rested. They have their ace on the mound. And this, in my opinion, is a must-win for the Toronto Blue Jays. It would be great if the Yankees could steal Game 1, and I think the Yankees can steal Game 1. So I feel, for the reasons why I laid out, I feel confident that the Yankees could win this series, going back to everything that we just said. I think they have the edge in starting pitching. I think they have the edge in bullpen. I think that with Bo Bichette being out of the lineup, that gives levels the playing field very, very much in terms of when you look at the two lineups And you could even say with Bo Bichette out of the lineup, the Yankees have the more formidable lineup. So things you are checking off a lot of boxes in the Yankees columns. And the one thing I would say, as far as fielding goes, I just laid it out, especially the first two games in Toronto. This is a quick carpet. They have to play their game, and we have to hope that some of the injuries or the fact that the Yankees are banged up, speaking of Bellinger and others, that doesn't manifest itself. And again, the two that I'm talking about, the two that I have circled, are both Bellinger and Grisham in the outfield. That's what we're hoping for. We obviously know Judge, we have to hope that the elbow holds up. They will be testing him. They will be going first to third. They will be trying to, score. They will be trying to take liberties with Judge on that elbow, hoping that he's not going to be throwing 100%. But, those are the things. And with that in mind, if the Yankees can play a clean defensive game and we have Wells behind the plate, and we know Toronto will look to run. They'll look to push the envelope in terms of where they perceive Yankee weakness is. If the Yankees play clean game defensively, it could bode well. Getting back to Luis Gil, ladies and gentlemen, I just gave you what I think is the key to game one. I want to see fastball, changeup, slider. If he establishes the changeup, and that's a big if, but if he establishes that changeup, and there's no reason why he shouldn't. His changeup was his calling card in the minor leagues. There's no reason why he shouldn't. Now, we know he had Tommy John surgery, so what I'm trying to say is sometimes if you have difficulty throwing the changeup, there's usually a reason for it. And if he doesn't throw it, it's either because he's got too much adrenaline and he doesn't feel like he can throw that finesse pitch. That's one reason. Another reason why Gil might not feel comfortable with throwing the changeup is because you need to pronate your wrist, ladies and gentlemen. When you throw a circle change, you need to turn your wrist the opposite direction of let's say, when you throw a slider, which is supinating your wrist. When you throw a changeup, you pronate your wrist. Another way of finishing that pitch for Luis Gil is as he's throwing the circle change, he's sweeping his fingers over the top of the baseball. And either way, when you throw a changeup, it has arm side fade. He's a right-handed pitcher. So if it's a left-handed batter, arm side fade is going away from a left-handed batter, if you will, right? So if he's throwing a changeup, he's throwing it, let's say, towards the middle of the plate. It's starting off in the middle of the plate. And what will happen with his changeup, it will have sink. It will hopefully go down. And it will have arm side fade. Okay? So sink, fade, arm side movement, and down. Why is that important? When he throws his slider, it's the opposite. It's glove side movement. Okay? So when he throws his slider, it's going glove side movement and down. So there you have it. And that's why it's so important, because if it's fastball slider, you don't have enough velocity separation, and you only have movement going one way. You either have fast, straight, or you have a slider coming in. So let's say I'm using lefty as an example. But with the changeup, now you have the ball going two different directions. Sinker, that's great too, because that has arm side run. Same thing with Gausman. We're going to get back to him again. He's fastball, and he's a splitter. His splitter is basically a changeup, and it goes down. All right, that's what you're going to be seeing. When you're watching the game, you're going to be thinking about what I'm saying. Okay, he's got a fastball, and he's got a splitter, which is basically it has obviously downward movement, but it's off speed, etc. That, ladies and gentlemen, shouldn't be enough to bewilder the Yankees. That should not be enough to bewilder this potent offense. And if he doesn't throw a third pitch, then again, his third, he has a slider. He also has a sinker. Now, a sinker has arm side run. But yeah, that's the scouting report on both pitchers. So hopefully you find it interesting. And again, as the game unfolds, you should see it. I just gave you a breakdown of both pitchers, okay, and what you should be looking for. And the fact Luis Heel has to be aware that since the Toronto Blue Jays put the bat on the ball and they don't strike out, you got to throw the ball over the plate, okay? Because there's a lot of deep counts. Talking about deep counts, I was at the game in early September. I believe it was September 5th when Cam Schlittler was on the mound at Yankee Stadium, and he was pitching against Gosman. So it was interesting to me. I'm watching Gosman, and he's shutting the Yankees down. He was shutting them out. If I remember correctly, I think it was around, I don't know, maybe like the seventh inning that Stanton hit a home run to put the Yankees on the board. I think we only had 4 hits for the entire night. I'm talking off the top of my head, so please bear with me on that. But I'm pretty sure I'm on point. So that we hopefully shouldn't be the case today. But what I saw was with Gosman, and again, he's throwing fastball splitter, and he really didn't have to do anything else. Hopefully not. Now, it's going to be healed today, but what I did mention was Cam Schlittler. That was one game that he struggled. And if you think back, ladies and gentlemen, and you think back to that game, he didn't get out of the second inning. And in the first inning, and again, I don't have I chart all the, all of his pitches, which is like, I know I'm a geek for doing that kind of stuff, but I chart his pitches. I chart Rodon, Fried for certain pitches. I chart. And what I noticed, and again, I was at the game, so I couldn't chart it, sitting in my seat drinking a beer. However, when I got home, I watched it on rewind. And what I noticed was in the first inning, Toronto was fouling off balls and fouling off balls and fouling off balls. I think, like, as I'm talking, you're remembering that game. And everybody is giving kudos to the Toronto Blue Jays because they're saying they put the bat on the ball, they don't strike out, things that I've just said today. But part of the reason, ladies and gentlemen, was because Schlittler struck out first the Springer, the leadoff hitter, on a curveball. Okay, so I'm saying, boy, okay, we're off to a good start. And then a little bit later on, Bo Bichette gets a broken bat double down the left field line off of a curveball. And like from that point, for the rest of the first inning, we even had a mound visit from Matt Blake. And he went the rest of the first inning. He did not throw a curveball. He went 17 in a row with velocity of 98, 99, 100. He was throwing fastballs. He was throwing cut fastballs. And everything was harder, or hardest. And in my opinion, ladies and gentlemen, that's why they were fouling balls off. And that's why there were deep counts. And that's why they did damage. Now, it makes it even more fascinating to me when I saw what Cam Schlittler did to the Boston Red Sox in the winner-take-all rubber game of the wild card. He was absolutely dominant. And he struck out 12 and walked none, and everybody's going over. Katie Sharp is going over to the history books. This is the first time, when it's the first time, in postseason history, that somebody's doing something, it's pretty impressive. And what was amazing to me was that he was basically, here's my fastball, hit it if you can. Yes. Did he throw his cutter? And you heard me talking about his cutter before the game. He's got a cutter that goes 2 different directions. He's got a cutter that goes in or east-west, and then he's also got a cutter that's got downward bite. He threw it, but he didn't throw an exorbitant amount of it. And he also threw his curveball. Okay, he absolutely did throw his curveball, but it was not a very, very significant part of the game. What was significant part of the game was his velocity and his ability to keep the velocity for the whole game. He was throwing triple digits from the first inning to amazingly to the 8th inning. So, kudos to him. But what I want to say is I would like to see if Cam Schlittler pitches game 4, which will be at Yankee Stadium. I'm hoping that he goes to the formula, which he did during the regular season as the season went along, where he's throwing a significant amount of curveballs. And that was like let's say 17 out of 100, like 17% or something like that. I'm hoping for something like that, but we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. We'll keep a laser focus on this game one. I told you what to look for. I gave you the two pitchers. I gave you the fact that the Yankees have to be on top of their game defensively. Why? Here's a quiz. Why? Why do they have to be on top of the game? One, because Toronto puts the bat on the ball, they don't strike out. Two, we're playing on a carpet. The Yankees, the 25 stadiums don't have carpets. We have a carpet that we're going to be playing on today, ladies and gentlemen. It makes the game faster. It makes me cringe a little bit. Nobody's talking about it, but Bellinger with that bruised heel, you don't want to be playing on turf with a bruised heel. So we'll keep our fingers crossed with that. I also gave you something to look at with Grisham. I told you that earlier in the season, let's call it July, earlier in the season, he pulled a hamstring muscle because he jammed his foot making a pivot move, he was trying to decide if he wanted to dive for a ball hit in front of him. But suffice to say, he injured himself on that turf. I guarantee you that he's thinking about it. It's in the back of his mind. So we have two of our outfielders that I'm going to just be keeping my fingers crossed. So there you have it. As far as the offense goes, as far as this Yankee lineup, and I told you what the numbers were against Gausman. So, we talked about that at length. They led the major leagues once again this year. If you want me to give you the stats, I can do that. But suffice to say, the Yankees led the major leagues again in home runs. I'll give you the exact numbers during the regular season. The Yankees finished first out of 30 teams in home runs, 274. Then came the Dodgers, a distant 244. Then the Mariners, then the Angels, then the Mets, then the Cubs, etc. Toronto, not even in the top 10, so they were tied for 11th. So the Yankees, what I'm trying to say is many times when we get into the postseason, I say it's got to be, you have to have the approach where you have to play situational ball. You have to be able to bunt. You have to be able to move runners over. I'm still saying that, ladies and gentlemen, this series. But I'm also saying potentially this is not a dominant rotation or bullpen. So the Yankees could have their cake and eat it too if they were going to get healthy, if they were going to do both with hit for average, level swing, hit to all fields, lay down a bunt, execute a bunt, all of those things. They are still front and center with what they need to do. But in addition, this is a rotation and a bullpen that the Yankees could and should do damage. Okay, we mentioned that Bassett is out. I think that's huge. Those of you that follow me closely know that I wrote a column for the Yes Network before the season even started. And I went chapter and verse as to why Max Fried was such a great signing and an important signing. I mentioned that in the postseason last year in the World Series, the Yankees saw 60 pitches in the first three games from three starters by the Dodgers that were 80 miles an hour or slower. And they were all curveballs. And the Yankees did not hold up to that. They did not perform well to off-speed spin. So that's something that I've warned about. But what I am saying is when I look at the fact that Chris Bassett is out due to an injury, the one that I'm going to circle and say, you know what? He could give the Yankees some trouble. He would be able to execute that game plan against the Yankees if they were smart enough to know what the Yankees' kind of weakness is with that slow off-speed curveballs, and it's Shane Bieber. He goes game two. But now, ladies and gentlemen, let's not forget, he's coming back from Tommy John surgery, okay? He was traded by the Cleveland Guardians to Toronto at the trading deadline this year. So he's only on Toronto for a short amount of time. He's only made like 5 or 7 starts. Forgive me, just I don't have it directly in front of me, but I looked it up. His ERA was good. It was like 3.57, something like that. And the reason why I'm mentioning all of this, Shane Bieber does have a curveball in his arsenal. He does throw a curveball at 82 miles an hour. So he is one to look at in game 2. He'll be matched up with Max Fried. So you could have two starters that are both having a similar approach. Fried's calling card in the past has been his slow curve. He throws it at 74 miles an hour. Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard me wax poetic about that. I don't think you're going to see that from Shane Bieber or anybody else on Toronto in this round. So again, it's not only what's a weakness, but does the other team know about the weakness or have the ability to exploit it? Okay, Chris Bassett, he's out with an injury with a lower back. Again, I'm not overly worried with what I'm seeing in terms of Toronto exploiting that weakness. Okay, hopefully I'm right about that. We'll know soon enough. I can tell you that we're not going to see it with Gosman in game 1. Again, he's 94, 95, and he could dial it up to 96, 97 with adrenaline with his fastball, and then you're going to see the splitter. But again, that's in the mid 80s. It's probably going to be today when you see it. It's probably going to be about 85 miles an hour. So that's it. Hopefully I gave you a different look, a different angle, a different feel to what you're going to be seeing. Gave you plenty to think about, and I'll be doing more of these as the series goes along. But this, for certain, gives you a feel for game 1. If I had to make a prediction now before the series starts, I don't really like to do so, but if I had to, I would say Yankees in 4, and I'm hoping that we don't have to come back for a game 5 with Max Fried on short rest in Toronto. But we'll take it one day at a time, one game at a time. I think this is a must win for Toronto. I don't think it's a must win for the Yankees, but it would be a great game to steal. And I gave you the keys to the game. Enjoy the game, ladies and gentlemen. And as always, go Yankees.